Hello students and welcome to this class. Today we will discuss Imagination by I.A. Richards. So let's discuss. Dear listeners, as you know, literary criticism has found itself as an important and independent branch. It established new horizons. A number of scholars have emerged as critics and interpreted literature in order to help a common reader like us. I. A. Richards and T. S. Eliot, they are some names. They are considered as the father of new criticism. I. A. Richards has contributed in the development of literary criticism by his distinctive essays like his Practical Criticism, Four Types of Meaning, Imagination, and many other. At present, we are concerned with his views on the imagination. So let's discuss his views on the imagination. I.A. Richard says that there are six senses of imagination. So the imagination by I.A. Richards, it is an essay which discusses about texts and how we can analyze it. Richard's idea of the six senses of the word imagination are frequently discussed in this essay. When we say imagination, what do we mean? You will get to know if we will discuss these 6 points, senses of imagination, one by one. So let's go into our next slide, which is production of image. So the first one, production of image. Generally, we mean 6 things, and the last one is talked in depth by I.A. Richards. First is the production of visual images. When I say Taj Mahal, Taj Mahal, Taj Mahal, you have listened to the word 3 times. You automatically start picturing it in your mind. When I say there was a prince and there was a princess and they lived in a palace, you will automatically start picturing it in your mind. It is considered to be done by imagination. This production of images is hence done by imagination. So, this is the first sense of imagination. I say a word and you see that in your mind. You picture it. What is that? That's imagination. So next, we shall go to the next point. The second one, second sense of imagination is the use of figurative language. When we use a metaphor or simile, we use imagination to produce it. You know what is a simile, what is a metaphor. That means imagination helps us to make contact between something abstract to physical or abstract to abstract. When we say, for example, time passes like water in a river. I repeat, time passes like water in a river. This simile is obviously a connection between time, which is abstract thing obviously, and water, which is very physical in nature. We have connected them and it makes sense. So we are using it in that sense, and it is considered to be done by imagination. So this is the use of figurative language as a sense of imagination. Now we'll move to the third point. The third one is the narrower sense. Third is creation of characters. Creation of characters. Dear students, let's create a character. Can you? We study plays, we watch movies, we read novels, short stories, and many more literary work of art, poetry as characters and personas. We read them, we will get the characters and personas. Even in one novel, there are characters which are different from each other, distinguished by their character traits and so many other physical nature. How does it happen that one man or woman, one person, writes about many men and women in different characteristics? How does that happen? How can someone create thousands of characters of different kind and type? That is the reason why we have added this category of imagination. Some believe that it is done by the power of imagination only. So how does it happen that one person can create? By the power of imagination. It is the special imagination by which a writer can sympathize with the character's mind. How these characters will react in different situations. That kind of thing. So this is the third sense of imagination, that is creation of characters, or the narrower sense. Let's move forward. The fourth one. The fourth one is inventiveness. It is believed that imagination is responsible for bringing together elements which are not ordinarily connected. That means scientists possess imaginative qualities. Does scientists imagine? Yes, of course. Every scientist has imagination. Hooray! So that means Edison had this imagination. Newton had imagination. Einstein, that means, has imagination. That means every scientist has imagination. Then, so this is the inventive imagination. Behind every invention, there is imagination. Let's move forward to our fifth type of imagination. So the fifth one is of similar kind, the scientific imagination. It is connecting things in logical order. That means finding connection between various things in a way that can lead to a single purpose or a logic. This also said to be done with power of imagination. So the sixth sense of imagination is the sense of musical delight, and it is very, very important. Uh, it is about imagination of a poet, how a poet writes. Richard says that a poet arranges his experiences and lays them in a style which is not possible for an ordinary person or ordinary layman. So the poet always does it better. Uh, Dear friends, we all have experiences, and it leaves some effects on us, upon us. And but when we try to order them in a way or sense, it does not or may not happen. But when a poet creates a poem or poetry, he or she usually arranges the universal experiences into something of an art. Ordinary men may feel it at times when he or she is having extreme happiness, like ecstatic joy of love or having a child or something like that. But it does not happen very frequently to common people. So, only great artists and their work of art can stimulate such great experiences into ordinary men. Now, how does a poet creates? He or she makes unconsciously a selection of outfits, habits, impulses through the very means by which they are aroused. Then the irrelevant and extra things are excluded. Then what remains? He or she imposes an order on it. And then almost always chief or important part of his work is then true. It is kept. So the impulses that we have seem to be most uniform and regular, which they call the formal elements. They are very, very primitive and are very common. That means happiness, fear, pity, joy, anger, helplessness, anxiety, and such things. Now, a poet does these with a kind of increased organization, and he or she has this heightened power of combining all the effects of the formal elements into a single response. Coleridge was one of the great artists who pointed out that the sense of musical delight is the gift of imagination. So that sense has been discussed here. So that imagination have the power of musical delight. Poetry is the chief exponent in this matter, and he gives the example of tragedy where he talks about pity and terror, how they are together, pity and terror in a tragedy. In tragedy, we feel pity on a character and we also feel terror from the same character. Both remains in the same instance and the same scene, and still we can feel the response, that is catharsis here. He says that this kind of response can be created only by a great poet. Now, how can this impulse be organized? Richard says there are two ways. One, by exclusion and by inclusion, and second, by synthesis and by elimination. Let me explain that. Although every core and state of mind depends upon both, it is possibly going to contrast experiences, which means stability and order, to one narrowing of response with those which widen it. When some work of art has a single kind of feeling as a desired response, that is considered as a good work of art or good poetry. But then there are some other works, poetry, which can invoke more than one feeling, more than one response. These kind of works are distinguished from other works. How? Here comes the question, how? The difference is in the relations of the several impulses active in the experience. When we experience something, there are several impulses which are active. So when the first kind of poem, they have this very parallel impulses, they all run to some direction, same direction. And but the poem later, there are multiple impulses, they are juxtaposed, they have a heterogeneity, I can say, and they are opposed. So this is one of the main difference between simple kind of poetry, where there is one emotion running throughout, and second kind of poetry where multiple emotion or impulses are running throughout. Another difference is that of balance. When we have the first kind of poetry that is balanced, it holds one state of mind but opposed impulses, or conflict, they held to altering states. And when that happens, that means we are not using our only focus to get it. That means various aspects of our mind are reacting to it, and various aspects of that particular impulse is being affected in our mind. So Richard says that it is the disinterested activity that we generally say in the field of criticism. So it becomes disinterested because it is not interested for any one impulse but of multiple. So when we see them from every side all around, then we can actually know that they are such impulses in the works. Some interest we should not see, but they are more or less involved in it. Richard says that impersonal becomes a curious way of seeing that our personality is more completely involved in it. So, when we say we are detached, it is actually our main focus is detached from there, and our various faculties of mind are attached there. Thanks for listening and watching. We have come to the end of the session. Please like and subscribe, and do not forget to click the bell icon. I hope you have enjoyed listening to me, and we'll meet again with a new concept in our next session. If you have clicked the bell icon, you will get notification first. So please like and subscribe. Thank you. Thank you very much.